All right, everybody, welcome back again to ERG TV. I'm KG. I got Perry G with me today.
What's going on, Milwaukee?
I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Enlightened Realty Group, powered by Keller Williams, and we're back in the studio today. What are we going to chop it up about today?
So today it's going to be all about Milwaukee and why Milwaukee is one of the best places to invest. So I'm really excited to get into this podcast today.
Awesome. Invest, live. Most people will agree living here is good, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we can always ask Gabe in the background. He just moved here from Florida, right?
Okay. I remember when the first winter, he was looking rough.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's
I don't even know
everybody.
if the boy bought a coat yet.
I told him. I gave him some prep, and then all of a sudden then he found out.
I think he had
because then it got real.
I think Schulte baby maybe gave him a little coat to borrow till he went to what's it called? I'm trying to think of a place that he went. He went to what's a good one? Marshall's.
He went to Marshall's. Back in the day, I would have told him to go to Milwaukee Mall, but that hasn't been around for a minute now. So,
what about Bouchard's? He could
definitely go to Bouchard's. What's interesting about Milwaukee Mall, though, I heard, on the low end that they actually might turn that into a hotel.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, that place has been there forever. I mean, I used to go there as a kid. I used to get a lot of my all my hip hop gear and all that stuff back when I thought it was cool.
When you were wearing shell toe Adidas?
Man, I was never really the Adidas guy. Ironically, I was never really the Jordans guy either.
What year was that? I got to see what you were doing.
Here we go. We're aging myself here, right?
Man, I was breakdancing wearing Adidas sweatsuits. Come on.
Yeah, see, I was probably, in the womb still when during the breakdancing days.
Right.
But, obviously breakdancing, was big in the 80s, whatnot. I was actually I'm an 85 baby.
85.
So, 80s babies, what's up?
Yeah, you missed all that.
I missed out all that. But, obviously I was early 90s, so I had the starter jacket, which was huge, right? Starter jackets were huge. Jordans were big in the early 90s, especially the black and red ones. Man.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's good. All right, let's talk about real estate.
Okay.
You work with a lot of investors. What have you been seeing lately? What are they looking for?
Yeah, so, I don't know how I got coined this, but I guess I'm the investor-friendly realtor, also that unicorn agent, right? So I'm the type of person who, yes, I have the traditional retail real estate side, but, my main focus, I always have the insight of as from an investor mindset. And so just through word of mouth, my name's gotten out there from anybody who's looking for fix and flips, buy and holds, anything on market, off market, etc. Exit strategies coming down to, comps to deep underwriting analysis, you name it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my investors are actually, outside of Wisconsin, so not necessarily local. A lot of them are around the Sunbelt states, and I also have some out of the country. But I am starting to get some more clientele that are local here, boots on the ground as well. So.
Right. I was, you were on the phone when I came into the office the other day, and then I was at my desk and I was listening, and it was getting deep with like the type of research you were doing, like analysis of different areas and like deeper research than what I need to do when I'm selling in neighborhoods that I already know. Cause I don't know. I mean, they're real numbers oriented. While, we want to give everybody the best possible deals and get it priced right, which is what we do. But yours was a different level because they were asking you a lot of more questions than just comps per se.
Absolutely. Comps is obviously something that's surface level, but there's a difference between comping a property and doing like a deep underwriting analysis of a property. I mean, anybody can typically comp a property, go on the MLS, see what, some was recently sold within a half-mile radius in the last 90 days. But depending on what the investor wants to do, it's so important to do a deep dive because of the fact that you need to know multiple exit strategies, and that is so vitally important. A lot of the, I guess you could say a lot of the rookie investors and a lot of the rookie agents, they think, if I'm just going to fix and flip, I only need to know this. If I'm going to do a buy and hold, maybe I'm only going to do the burst strategy. Mm-hmm. But it goes so much more than that. In reality, you probably should have at least, maybe 5 to 8 different exit strategies just in case, because you never know what life may happen. And once again, prime example, we can go back to during the pandemic, all of a sudden everybody was selling anything and everything for over asking price. I'm sure the appraisers are probably like, how the heck are we going to go ahead and reassess these things, for way over market value? But then all of a sudden, you look at June 2022, and then it did like a 180,
Yeah.
and then everything that was selling for way above asking, and then reality hit, and then you have all these investors who did not do their due diligence. They did not do a deep underwriting analysis, and they only stuck to like maybe one exit strategy, and they were stuck. And now they were underwater. But if you did, you did your homework, you did 5, 6, 7, 8 exit strategies, well, then it's no big deal when life hits your way and a whirlwind comes your way.
Right. And even in the real market, realtors didn't adjust to it, and then they were not giving their clients good advice. Not us, of course, but there was a high influx of expireds because the realtors, some of them, not the good ones, didn't. The ones that just do whatever, and they're probably part of the 100,000 that quit this year because they weren't running their business properly and taking care of their financial responsibilities. They were overpricing things and they were expiring, and people like me and you were calling them and picking them up and having real conversations with sellers. Say, hey, I know you raised your hand. I know you wanted to sell this. We know why it didn't sell. When's a good time to meet? And then we'd go meet with them, give them reality, and then went from there and sold their property.
Absolutely. It's so vitally important too is, when I sit down and talk with people, I don't care if it's on the residential real estate, on the retail side, or whether I'm talking to an investor. At the end of the day, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give you, the cold hard facts, whether you like the reality or not. It's so vitally important. And, at least I know that if they don't go with me the first time around and it ends up expiring, they're going to think in the back of their mind, like, you know what, that Perry guy was right. Let me go ahead and give him a call. Right. But on top of that, being the better realtor too, I'm also going to follow up to see how things are going too, stay top of mind, and they also appreciate that too. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, sometimes there's some prideful people out there that might be a little bit embarrassed to say, you know what, you're right. Let me have a humbling moment. And you are the right guy for the job.
Right. Yeah. You'd be surprised. They start to talk to people that like, oh, my cousin told me this or my neighbor told me that. It was like, well, that was a different time, right? This is what's happening now. This is how we're going to do it.
Right. And it's a prime example. Just before we got into this podcast today, I was out in the field and I was hanging out with, one of these old school appraisers. He's retired now and he did some things back in the day, but he was shocked by like some of the properties in the neighborhoods that we're going into and how much they were selling for in as is condition or even just like a rent ready condition versus a full rehab. He's like, man, this was back when my younger years, he's like, I couldn't even fathom how much these properties are selling for these days.
Right. And fast forward your 2022 comment, now we're back to kind of the craziness again. It's like they flipped the script like in October-ish 2023, right?
Yep.
And we started to see the multiple offers and stuff. I was at a house just yesterday. This house was, needed some updates cosmetically, but it was nice. And it was, how much was it? $175, right? Yard was nice, good area. My investor was looking at it. We went to the basement. The whole foundation was bad, like 3 inches coming in bad.
Oof.
Right? And then on the other wall had a crack where you could kind of see through it, right? And we were like, no, we can't. I mean, the price. I mean, everything can be fixed, right?
Absolutely.
That would probably be somewhere between $25,000-$30,000 to fix, and we would have taken it on. So I called the agent. I was like, we'd be willing to do a full price offer if you could take care of the foundation work. He's like, well, my seller doesn't have money to do it. I was like, well, I have 2 of the biggest foundation specialists that work with us, and they can get paid at closing. And like, he had no idea that even exists. I was like, I get it. Not everybody's got $30,000 laying around to fix the foundation. We can get the work done, and the contractor can get paid at closing. How does that work? He's like, well, that sounds great, but we got like 4 or 5 people who aren't even caring about the foundation. I was like, well, we're not one of them,
Right.
unfortunately. So that goes back to the kind of craziness of the market. Investors are trying to get whatever they can at this point, right? Because there's not a ton of stuff out there.
Exactly. And you both on market and off market. Even off market, I'm starting to see certain key areas where there are multiple investors. Like I was going through a property today off of the Williamsburg location, which is right outside River West area. And it's a really nice duplex. It's 3 bedroom upper, 2 bedroom lower. Nice. It was a property, but that was converted though. You could tell it was a single family back in the day, and they converted it into a duplex. And I was there representing one of my investors, and there was legit. As soon as I got done, there was 5 other cars lined up,
Right.
and this is off market type of deal. But yeah, I mean, good deals are hard to come by these days, and so it's important that when you do come across a deal, that you have somebody who is ready to help you execute right away, because let's face it, time kills all deals and time is money, right? So you
Right.
gotta, not only do you gotta act fast, sure, do your due diligence, but think fast, but don't think blindly, right? Always do your due diligence, but do it in a timely manner.
Right. Yeah, if we weren't thinking like that, we would have just wrote an offer on the house and figure out the basement later, right?
Exactly. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the basement thing. For those of you watching, and you heard KG mention that the foundation was out of plumb by, like you said, 3 inches.
I've never seen it that far. I've
I
only
mean,
seen like 1.5 or 2, so excavation needed for
Yep.
sure.
So, and that's crazy. I've seen some crazy stuff over the years too. I've seen somewhere, it looked like I was in a fun house, man. Go
Usually
there, maybe crack my back on it or something.
Right. Usually it's hard to kind of see if it's out of plumb, but this one was so obvious.
Sure. Absolutely. And then, for those of you watching, once again, when you have like a home inspector or contractor go through and they use like, old school plumb bob, you can use that, or you can use like, those modern day lasers, which are really, really nice too. Typically, anything that is less than, what they say, like 3/4 of an inch, you're good to go.
Right.
One thing is too, keep in mind here in Milwaukee, especially in the city of Milwaukee, a lot of our properties are going to range from like the late 1800s, maybe up to like 1940s. And so, the type of craftsmanship, a lot of those properties were built to last. So when you see some of them that are slightly out of plumb, it's also good to do your due diligence, have a structural engineer come check it out. A lot of times it just settled that way too.
Correct.
And so that's something to keep in mind. And once again, you want to deal with experienced agents, who know that type of information to possibly save yourself $30,000 if it's not necessary.
Right. If there's no recent movement, usually that's where it's going to stick.
Yep.
Right. So does Milwaukee, what's today's date? It's May 2nd, 2024. Does Milwaukee still have the cash flow king title of the United States?
Not only is Milwaukee the cash flow king of the United States, literally a lot of people talk to, they talk about Milwaukee as being like the cash flow of the world. I mean, once again, you have so many investors. Once again, most of my investors are either from the Sun Belt states or they're out of the country. I have some from Argentina, some from Israel. I have one from Germany, one from Russia as well too. And they've all done their research. Once again, we got 50 different states, and they choose Wisconsin.
Right.
They specifically narrow in Milwaukee. So, yeah.
That's good. Now, are these guys mostly buying and holding? Or are they doing flips? Or what would you say the ratio of buy to hold to flip is?
So, once again, I think it all depends on the market aspect and what's going on. Right now, I'm still seeing a blend of both, fix and flip and buy and hold. And it all depends. If like fix and flip is your strategy, you typically know what are your key areas you want to fix and flip in. Same thing. If you were going to buy and hold, you know which areas are good buy and hold areas for whatever the end result is, whether it's cash flow or whether it's appreciation or a blend of both. And
Right.
I know you and I were just talking about that before we got in this episode of, what are we currently seeing and what is Milwaukee traditionally known for? So, Milwaukee is traditionally, right, historically known for being the cash flow capital, where traditionally really wasn't meant for the appreciation. So like if you were to go to like, a California or New York where they're known for appreciation, right? But they're not known for the cash flow necessarily. Milwaukee was known for the cash flow, but not necessarily appreciation.
Right.
But there are, once again, I always tell everybody that real estate is hyper local. So if you are hyper local in specific key areas, specific key zip codes, and even certain neighborhoods, you might see an area where, hey, once again, we were talking about, north side versus south side. North side is, known more for its cash flow, but not necessarily as much as appreciation. Or south side of Milwaukee, we're going to see a little bit of both, right? You're going to see, that appreciation for sure, and a little bit of that cash flow.
Right. And for people that, don't talk about this every day, cash flow, why they're saying that it's cash flow is because generally the home prices are lower in Wisconsin than other states. That way you got a lower home price, you got a lower mortgage, and rents are high. So the difference between the rent and the mortgage is your cash flow. So just so people know, just in case somebody doesn't really understand what that is, because when I put stuff up, I have realtor friends back home in Maryland and in different parts of the state, and they see these nice houses going for even like in the 300 or 400 range, right? They're like, man, that would cost me like 800 or 900 in Maryland. So they're like amazed by what you get here versus what the prices are in different parts of the country.
Absolutely. I'll be honest. I think we're really spoiled here in Milwaukee because if you look at, the average of what the median, sale prices for a house, I mean, we can go, look at like Phoenix, Arizona, or like Maryland and things like that. And then I tell them prices here and their mouths just drop if they don't know. Right. I mean, so, some of the factors that a lot of investors, talk about before they target an area, are, the population, what is the average home sale price, things like that. What is, the cap rate, et cetera, for those areas. And, when I tell them that right now, for Milwaukee, I mean, we can get some homes, for a decent amount for I was talking with Marcelo Sharif. He's a very well-known wholesaler in the wholesale industry. He does a lot of wholesaling across the U.S. I had the opportunity to meet him here in Milwaukee like about 2 years ago while he was in town, but now he's moving on to some other big things too. Now he's doing some commercial real estate. He's actually in charge of like a $40 million portfolio, but he actually had a franchise here in Milwaukee, which was like the Keighley franchise. For those of you familiar, Jamil Damji, who's one of the largest wholesale investors in all the United States, who's known for wholesaling. Marcelo Sharif is actually was mentored by Jamil. He also just had a podcast recently. And so he also mentioned Milwaukee as well on the podcast, which, once again, is a great thing to do.
Right. You mentioned the population of Milwaukee. So, what, I don't know if you know the exact numbers, but what about the population of Milwaukee that's different than somewhere else? Is there something that jumps out?
Yep. So here's important. So, depending on the investor you speak with, a lot of investors say bare minimum, look for a population that's at least 100,000. There's some investors that say, look for a population that's at least 400,000. There's some that will say, I'm not doing anything unless there's a population less than 1 million. Well, thankfully for the city of Milwaukee and the greater Milwaukee metro area, which I'll talk about in a second, we meet all that criteria. So if we look just at the city of Milwaukee alone, right now, as of this year, we're around that 600,000 population mark, which is well over 100,000, well over 400,000. And then you got those who say, all right, well, I want to focus on an area where there's at least 1 million. Okay. So if we take Milwaukee County, we have about 1 million people altogether. And then we take the 4 surrounding counties that make up the greater Milwaukee metro area. Now we're at a total of about 1.4 million altogether.
Right. I think it's a good mix because you got all the numbers you need to fill rentals, things like that, but yet you don't have traffic like Chicago. I mean, it's very rare that you experience bad traffic here, and I think that's a big part of living. People consider that, especially when they're commuting back and forth during rush hour. I mean, can you really think of horrible traffic around here? I can't really think of it. Maybe 15, 20 minutes here and there. But I think it's set up really nice the way they designed it.
It's so funny that you said 15, 20 minutes because actually I know an investor in Chicago, when he was just starting to venture up to Milwaukee, and he would ask me like, well, how far is this and how far is that? Like 15, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And then he's like, really? He's like, everything here is 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, because I think it's phenomenal that one of the histories of Milwaukee, I think they did a phenomenal job of making Milwaukee a grid and the hub around there. It's so easy to get around Milwaukee the way that they structured everything from the roads, freeways, highways, public transportation. Literally, it does. It takes 15 to 20 minutes if you have a vehicle to get from one end of Milwaukee to the other.
Yeah.
So when you talk about walkability, I'm glad that you said that. There's actually a young girl who's going to my ed. She actually works at the Milwaukee Public Market, just moved here from Chicago. I asked her, I'm like, what are some of the things that you like about Milwaukee versus Chicago? She said, number one, affordability. She said, the prices to be able to rent a place, somebody who is in college right now and on her own and just working on her own while going to school, she said the affordability is so much better than Chicago.
Right.
And she said the second best thing is the walkability. Not only is she able to walk anywhere that she needs to go downtown in Milwaukee, but also she's able to get on the ease of public transportation, whether she's taking the city public bus, whether she's taking, the Amtrak from Chicago to Milwaukee. You have that as well.
Done that before. That's a good one.
Exactly. And then so you also have the HOP, which is fantastic. I know they're expanding the destinations of the HOP right now as well too. And, the HOP is free.
Right. Everybody complained about building that, but a lot of people enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Right. Other things in Milwaukee, we were talking about the restaurant scene, the Milwaukee Public Market came up. You said it's number one in the world. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm going to fight that ranking, but it is cool. It is cool in there. But I was talking to Gabe, and there's a real nice one in Philly and Baltimore where I grew up. Well, I don't know if it's safe there anymore. But back in the day, it was one of the good ones. Get all kinds of seafood and stuff. But they have a real good seafood spot inside the Milwaukee Public Market right on the corner there.
Yeah, actually, I kind of avoid the seafood section,
You
because
allergic?
I am highly allergic to seafood,
boy.
man. Both freshwater fish, saltwater fish. And I learned about it when I was at the Capitol Grill when I was like 25 years old. And the chef gave me complimentary shrimp. And then all of a sudden I started having like the itchiness in my throat. I'm like, what is going on here? But it wasn't that bad. And then a week later, one of my relatives came in town from Sugar Land, Texas, and made like some shrimp jambalaya. And then that's when it started. And then it sucks because, I love fish. Back in the day, I loved fish. Thankfully, my eldest daughter, she's now developed a palate for fish. So she's, taking over all the good fish meals that I can't have no more.
Back in the day when I was working with the soup market was in the Milwaukee Public Market. They did really good there. In fact, that's where we made all the stock, like the base and the stock, to pump it out to the other locations where they actually made the soup. But the base and we make like 80 gallons of stock a couple times a day. And then we filmed we were on the show called The Prophet with Marcus Lemonis, and we filmed a few episodes there as well. So I got to know it pretty good.
Yeah, so, I got to give a plug to Milwaukee Public Market, specifically Pat's Ribs. I got to give it to Pat. I first had her barbecue back when she was out in Waukesha. I was so excited when I learned that she ended up moving to the Milwaukee Public Market. First of all, proud of you, Pat. Big deal. A couple of reasons why. Number one, she is, it's female owned and it's black owned. So you got two categories right there, black, female as well. And a lot of people don't know this about her, but she is the niece of Oprah Winfrey, and she didn't take any of her money at all. She's doing it all on her own,
nice,
right here in Milwaukee. And so that's another, maybe that's one of the reasons
what else
why.
They have there? They have brisket?
Yep, man.
Oh,
they got everything.
I haven't been there for a while.
You're going to have to go check it out. Yes, for real. Pat's Ribs.
Is she
in
on
Milwaukee
the main
Public
floor
Market,
right there?
On the main floor. Yep. So who knows? Maybe that's one of the reasons why the Milwaukee Public Market,
I bet that's it.
As
Pat,
of last Tuesday, is known as the #1 public market in all of the U.S. as of last Tuesday.
Where'd you see that?
Actually, my grandmother, she gave me a link. She was trying to give me some good content for here, and she did her due diligence. And
we gotta have grandma.
Credible link on
time.
there too. Yep. So credible resource on there. So for sure.
Good.
Yep.
And then restaurant scenes besides the public market. I mean, gosh, it's foodie heaven around here. There's so many places I haven't even been. People are like, I forgot.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody the other day. He's like rattling all these places off. I was like, text me your top 10 because I'm gonna put it on my list and just start hitting them. In fact, I didn't get his 10 yet. I gotta hit him up on that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about Chicago for so many food places, But Milwaukee, man,
Yeah.
I was looking it up. Milwaukee literally has 31 Michelin star restaurants,
Which is
and
difficult.
right.
That doesn't happen just overnight.
No, it doesn't. And then so we've also had the National Food Network has been here for events this year as well. I believe Guy Fieri's been here for some events as well. I mean, we've had a lot of major attractions when it comes to Milwaukee for the food and beverage industry, specifically within the restaurant industry.
Right. Then you got Summerfest, the fair, a lot of stuff going on
Yeah,
here.
so Summerfest, for a lot of you who don't know, it's been around since 1960s. Still to this day, it is the largest music festival in the entire United States. So a lot of your biggest stars that you can think of, come down here to perform. And how cool is that? You basically
Right.
pay like 1 fee to get in, and then you can see like all of these top performers in these different genres. Doesn't matter if it's country, it doesn't matter if it's rock, rap, R&B, jazz, soul, etc. Playing on all these various stages for one price.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
you, you got me laughing. I'm thinking about KGBC back in the day. I opened. Gosh, should I even say the brand? Anyway, we had. I'm not going to say the brand, but we opened their spot in Summerfest, and we had very big, delicious burritos. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And like I was whenever there was cool bands that I wanted to meet, and they would order food for backstage. So I remember the most memorable one was delivering to Cypress Hill
Nice.
behind.
That's nice.
Let's just say I didn't get back to work for about 2 or 3 hours. So you can imagine what was happening back there.
Do you have
But
any
like
other,
I said, that's a long time ago, kids.
Do you have any other, favorite music artists that you've seen over the years at Summerfest that you can think of?
There's been so many. They were one of my big ones. Who else was there? Gosh, I haven't been there. I'll be honest with you. Since I've kind of changed a bit, not so into the world,
Yeah.
I don't really follow musicians like that anymore. But Def Leppard was there.
Yeah.
That was good to see Def Leppard because I grew up around that time frame. I think that was one of my first records I bought when I was a kid. Was that Def Leppard record, and I remember seeing them, and that brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, let's see. Who can I think of? So some of the concerts that I've gone to at Summerfest, back when he was alive, I went and saw, Prince, also the artist formerly known as
Oh, that
Prince,
would've been good.
right? That was a phenomenal concert. So, Prince was there. I had the opportunity to see him. I've seen Sting live in concert. Santana has performed there as well, too.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Other various artists, that I can think of off the top of my head is like LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, right? Miley Cyrus,
They had the Beastie Boys.
they had
there?
the Beastie Boys that played there before
I wasn't
as well,
living
too,
here
man.
back then. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I got, other various genres, like you got BB King and, Jason Aldean, and, Garth Brooks. Like I said, Kid Rock. I mean, I can go on and on and on of like so many headliners that have come here to perform at Summerfest.
Yeah. One of my homeboys from back in New York, Master Ace, he was there.
Yeah?
That's my guy from back in the day, Steve Strickland. That's his on stage hype man, his partner. Stricky's got his license at KW, and he was on my real estate team for a while.
Nice, man.
And they do European tours still every year.
Nice.
So yeah, I remember Ace was there on the big stage, and it was good to see him. I mean, you think about it, he's a '80s old school rapper,
Yep.
and to be playing at Summerfest was pretty cool to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a couple other ones that, maybe it would have been before my time, maybe I was younger, but now Janet Jackson performed there. A lot of people didn't know this, but, Johnny Depp, when he was with a band, they actually played there at
Okay. Yeah, I
Summerfest as
remember
well,
that.
too.
I
So,
remember
yeah.
when he was in that
Yep.
band. That's good. Anyway, Summerfest. Yeah, so tons of stuff to do here. What about the job industries? Do those investors focus on job industries? Is that something they talk to you about? Or
Experienced
is that just a
investors.
benefit? Okay.
Once again, I can always tell the difference if I'm dealing with an experienced investor who, definitely knows how to hone in on the market. They have their pulse on the market, not just locally, but also nationally, internationally as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're focusing on a lot of the basics, but also they focus on, micro and macroeconomics and
Right.
population growth and things like that. A lot of things that people really don't think about that are so important when choosing a good market, especially if you're going to be there long term, doing business long term.
Right.
So when you talk about, economics, and you talk about, job industry and job growth and things like that, yes, extremely important. So, what are some of the things that Milwaukee's known for? Milwaukee's obviously known for the breweries, right? So, a lot of those well known breweries from back in the day, from like, you have Pabst Blue Ribbon, you have
Mm-hmm.
Schlitz, obviously you have Miller's, which is now Miller Coors, and so many others that are literally
Oh, then all
here,
those IPAs that pop up.
right?
Right. It's like they're
Specifically
everywhere.
here in the city of Milwaukee. We're not talking about the outskirts of Milwaukee, but actually in
Right.
Milwaukee. It's huge.
When you drive on the freeway and you're coming in, there's still buildings that look like they're out of commission, and somebody could do something with those. I've seen some as I come in. I always wonder if someone would grab a big one like that and redo. I mean, that's a big project to redo big commercial buildings like that.
But I mean, there's development that's going on all over, especially those that focus on, business development, commercial, mixed use commercial as well too. A lot of people don't know this. Maybe this is, one of the hidden gems that's about to get, going out live.
Mm-hmm.
But I know as of last year, I always like to see what kind of programs that, the city, the local government and the state government's doing, et cetera. And it's crazy for mixed use and commercial buildings. There's like a grant that the state of Wisconsin has, that it's literally the largest grant that they have ever produced, and it's like well over $1 billion with a B to go towards commercial and mixed use commercial in order to transfer them into residential housing. So we all know that affordable housing is, an issue not just here locally in Milwaukee, but
Right.
across the nation. I mean, so that, and I've been able to run across a couple investors that have been able to tap into the funds, and why not? It's readily available for a good cause, so why not?
So, like, where would one go to get started? Is there a website or
Yep,
you
you can
direct
go.
them
You
to?
can definitely go to WIDA.
Mm-hmm.
WIDA is in charge of, that, and they'll be able to pin you in the right directions of like, the ins and outs of exactly what you got to do to be able to obtain something like that while it's still readily available.
Right. So, if someone was out there and they wanted to look into that more, they should give you a call, and
They
then
can
you
definitely
can.
give me a call, absolutely, and I can get them access to the resources for all that.
Right.
Because
Because
once
you've already
again,
done legwork on
yep,
it, so you know.
absolutely. So once again, it is specifically on what kind of project that you are doing and that you are able to get qualified for as well too. So for example, like they have 150 million set aside for one thing, they have 50 million set aside for another thing, neighborhood specific,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So yeah.
Good. We'll have to look into that too. I don't focus a lot on that, but if you got people asking about it, it's
Yep.
good that you know about it. Right. Residential versus commercial. That kind of brings us, do you have commercial investors right now or mostly residential?
Most of my clients are residential. I've been fortunate enough to recently, within like this past year, come across a couple referrals to me that they do focus on
Mm-hmm.
commercial, whether it's mixed use commercial, whether it's multifamily. Thankfully, nice part is one of them are here locally, and it was through one of the referrals through Park Place Lending. So first of all, I just want to say thanks for that. That's phenomenal that you're able to refer us together. I
Right.
had the opportunity to tour some of their mixed use commercial buildings, and they're really nice. I mean, these are buildings that were sitting, and rotting away, things like that, and they saw the opportunity and they were able to turn it around. And both the exterior and interior of the buildings are just phenomenal. I know some of the things that they do with those buildings is they like to fill them. They have partnered with a couple nonprofit organizations to help fill the vacancies for aged out adopters. So anybody who's in the
Mm-hmm.
foster care and they're now at a point where they're too old to be in the system, and they now unfortunately need to be out on their own. These investors are given the opportunity to be able to rent a place on affordable pricing in their mixed-use commercial buildings.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. I know people out there, they see investors on Facebook and online and people that rehab and flip, and it looks fun, and it is. But usually you just see the good stories. They
Hmm.
won't tell you the behind the scenes stuff. You don't really know their profit margins, right?
Right.
And I can tell you, it is work. I mean, the last one I just did, what we thought would take 3 months, took five,
Hmm.
right? You always have to prepare and have extra money because things are going to come up. If you think you're going to spend 175, guess what? You're probably going to spend two. So you always have to have that buffer. I mean, you would think when you go into a house, you're like, all right, I'm going to change out the outlets, put a nice white one, looks good. But once we opened it up, like, these wires looked like they're from 1950, which they were. We ended up rewiring the whole house.
Yeah.
That's an extra 8 grand right there.
Plus time,
Plus
got
time.
permits and all that stuff you got to get too. So,
Yep, 8 grand plus time. That's more money, but you don't want you want people to be in a safe house. I'm not going to sell somebody a house where if they turn on a light could cause a fire, right? And then the plumbing needed to be redone. Almost all of it needed to be redone. That was an extra 4 grand. So there's 12 grand right there above above your project budget that you're hoping not to spend. I had to regrade the driveway. I could go on and on things that pop up. So I want people to know is like, look, this can be rewarding. It's not easy. You have to get the right contractors. It's very easy to walk into a house and see a bad flip, right? I'm
absolutely.
not going to be that guy. I'm going to use higher end stuff. If it takes me an extra month to make it right, that's what we're going to do. So that's my advice to people. Don't try and do it too quick. Don't use cheap materials because I'll be honest with you, buyers, they pick up on it right away because there are a lot of rehabs in Milwaukee. And right when they go in, the realtors can tell and the buyers usually can tell that they use cheap material,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. That's so important too is, you should definitely use good quality material. Definitely use a trustworthy crew that, is going to get things done in a timely manner. They're also going to keyword communicate with you, right?
Right.
That's just one of my pet peeves is if I'm constantly having to chase somebody down for just a simple answer, where if there's just an open line of communication,
Hmm.
it would just make it easier for everybody throughout throughout that process. So
Right.
so important. But I'm glad that you also mentioned that too. It's also really important to understand too what style of investing are you doing? Is the project that you're working on, is it a fix and flip or is it a rental?
Right.
Also location. You don't want to invest too much money in a location where you're not going to get a good return on your investment. Some people, especially if they're rookies, right? And they're brand new and they just there's too much emotion involved and not enough of the what's the underlying focusing on the numbers aspect. Okay,
Right.
don't overspend. And I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of investors make, especially in the beginning, is they overspend on their budget, focusing on too much of
Right.
things that don't necessarily need to be focused on.
Yeah.
But as long as it's quality work done, you're doing it done in a timely manner, open communication, really, really important. There is a difference between a rental grade property and a fix and flip property. There's a difference between an investor friendly contractor versus like a high end contractor that you're going to use on your own house that you're actually going to live in.
Right, that's true. But you're right. You can overspend. I mean, it looks great, and the buyer's going to appreciate it. But if you're listed at 300, and it's probably not going to appraise in certain areas, right? If that appraisal comes in low, no matter if you use the best quartz in the world, best countertops, whatever, you can overspend. So you got to make sure you know that what's selling in that area.
Very important, and also very important once again, doing proper comps and doing proper a deep underwriting analysis. I think too many people who think they know how to comp, you're going to find out towards the end of the project whether or not you actually comped,
Right.
because as soon as you get the report back and you're like shocked, like, hey, I thought I was going to appraise for this, and in reality you're way under.
Oh gosh.
And that's the conversation I have with my clients all the time, and I let them know, like, hey, these are true comps. This is what the appraisers actually look for versus the comps that you think, that is wishful, that is a pipe dream.
Right.
Let's focus on the reality versus wishful thinking. And if it goes higher than what I've given you, fantastic. But at least it's not going to go the other way around.
Right. You know me. I'm not always the good news guy. Like, so I'm not on Facebook fake. I put the bad and the good. So I'll tell you the bad. I'll give you an example of how I made a mistake with comps on a flip that I did, and this is how it went. So I there was a 2 bed 1 bath, right? Up on the upper, and then the basement was unfinished, but there was a big room and a place to put a closet. So I put an egress window in down there, nice bedroom, closet, put a half bath, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm looking at comps. I'm like, all right, this is 230, 240, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm expecting. So when it got appraised, it wasn't 230, 240, and she's comping only 2 bedrooms. I was like, why are you only comping 2 bedrooms? This is 3 bed, 1.5 bath, not 2 bed, 1.5 bath. She's like, well, we go off the main level. She's running comps off the main level.
Hmm.
Even though you added it to that bottom, it didn't. It doesn't come out to the comps like that. So I was like an $18,000 hit. I still made money. Still made money, but I took about an $18,000 hit that I was expecting would be coming in because I was expecting the appraiser to run it at 3 bed, and they ran it at 2, and I was mad. And I called a couple of my appraisers, and there's one guy who's like, oh, he said, yeah, that's true, but I don't think that she ran good comps because yours is a total rehab, and she put in comps that weren't rehab. So if they didn't find a rehab 2 bed 1 bath, they should have then deviated to the 3 bed, which she didn't, and
Right.
she didn't want to hear about it. And and then the other agent was like, Kevin, please, you're going to be a blessing to this family. I'm like, all right, send me the papers. So I took like an 18 grand hit. It was good for that buyer, obviously. You know, they're at the top of their price range, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and less is best for them. So I hope they're enjoying that house. But
I'm sure they
that's
are.
a mistake I made. And so hopefully you guys don't have to go through that. But I
So
still made money, though.
that's important. You made
Little,
money. You
yeah.
know, but what's important though is, I always let people know too, is, find out who some of your local appraisers are. Sit down, take them out to lunch, take them out to coffee, and find out, how do they operate?
Right.
How do you, and give them an example of a property that maybe you're looking to buy or you're getting ready to, and say, hey, what are some of the things that you do in order to figure out what the final value of the property is? And that way, and then that way you're not just assuming, and it's not shocking because you also open that form of communication.
Right.
It is important too to obviously, yes, allow them to do their job, but have the open line of communications to say, hey, of course this is your job. I'm not here to step on your toes, but here's some of the data that I've come up with. What are your thoughts? Type of deal. I know you can do your due diligence and things like that, but you'd be surprised where sometimes like maybe they didn't think to use that comp, or maybe it's something that passed on their radar that allowed you to make the money that you needed to, or got you to the level where you needed to be because you opened that line of communication ahead of time before they did the work. At the end of the day, once again, their word's going to be bond. They're still going to do their own due diligence. But a lot of them appreciate that you're there genuinely to help, but not take over and control what they're doing. So that's important as well.
Correct.
And then lastly, appraisal rules change. So, what you've known maybe like 5, 10, 15 years ago, maybe some of those appraisal rules don't apply to today. So it's another reason that's important to have an appraiser in your back pocket to sit down and talk about of what's currently going on.
Right. Well, I think that's a good way to go out. I think next time we get back together, we could talk about appraisers for a while because I agree with you, and I always meet the appraiser. I just spent an hour with an appraiser at my rehab in Menominee Falls. An hour. And it was because she wanted me to give her a tour and tell her about all this stuff because it's a very unique property. There weren't any comps. She had to create a comp for it. There was 0 comps. It had a big 7-car barn garage, almost an acre of land, total rehab with high-end finishes. And if you did comps and you did your circle prospecting within a mile, nothing really would have came up like it. And we both knew that. And then I got news yesterday that it passed the price. So I was excited about that.
Nice.
All right, so the investors, back to them again. They have other, not even investors, but people that live here. Like, would you say schools are important?
Extremely important, both on the investment side and on the real estate side, the residential real estate side, for those who want to live in a neighborhood or community. There's so many first time home buyers or people who are parents, who are dedicated to making sure that their kids have the best education possible.
Right.
They want to live in the best neighborhoods. They want to live in the best school districts for whatever the various reason is. It could be, whether they are pursuing a career in art and they want to have the best schools that have the best art. Maybe they want to have a school industry that's a college prep or university prep high school that can, prepare their kids to get ready to go to college and maybe even get, some college credits while they're still in high school that will transfer over to whatever university they choose, and then even sports as well.
I got a family I'm helping. We got their property under contract last week, and he's in the what does he do? He's got a bunch of credits, and we just visited a college. He earned tons of credits in his high school, and now he only has, I think it almost cut off almost a whole year of all the credits he took.
Absolutely. I went to a university prep school. I went to Riverside University High School. Shout out to Riverside, formerly known as East Division.
Wait, somebody told me, what year you graduate?
2004.
What year did my wife graduate? So she went there.
Oh,
Somebody
really?
was telling me the other day. Oh, wait, who was it? They saw you on the podcast. Like, oh, I see. Oh, Catherine. What was her real name? Blonde hair on the swim team.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine, she's married to my wife's brother.
Yeah.
I saw her at a party last week. She's like, I see you're hooked up with Perry. It's like, how you know Perry? She's like, oh, we went to school together.
She was actually a really good swimmer, man.
So you remember that?
Absolutely.
Right. Sorry, I had to interject that. That just came out.
And then once again, hence the reason why people choose good schools. I mean,
right.
Riverside was really good for like swim. Both boys and girls swim they were really, really good. Soccer.
We didn't even have swim teams where I went to school. No.
Yeah, soccer was phenomenal. My freshman year was when we started at Riverside. Okay, they were getting ready to ban and get rid of wrestling because they haven't won anything for like 15 years, right? And then all of a sudden,
get rid of it.
Here comes this freshman squad, which was me and primarily a freshman team. And there's like one junior and like another senior. We dominated.
Did you?
Literally, we were undefeated in conference. One of my boys actually went to state that year too. It was freaking awesome. And they decided to keep the wrestling squad. And so, I was varsity all 4 years and then captain 3 out of the 4 years. So really good wrestling team.
Rejuvenated the wrestling squad.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, but that's not the reason why I went there. I went there because it was a university prep school. Mm-hmm. And speaking of college credits, I took a couple AP classes. And I ended up getting a couple college credits from world history class.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about job industries, but we kind of skipped over it after breweries. Now, obviously, there's more stuff than
Yes.
the breweries, the restaurant biz. What else do you have on your radar?
There is so much. So, obviously, we mentioned breweries. We mentioned restaurants. So, if anybody ever wants to have a career in the restaurant industry, whether it's, culinary arts, chefs, etc., you can go ahead and do that. But we are also known for, arts. I mean, we have the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. Mm-hmm. We have Milwaukee Ballet. We have the Milwaukee Rep, Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra, Milwaukee Performing Arts Center. Those are just a few of the arts as well that a lot of people from around the world will literally come to Milwaukee for, which is fantastic. Other job industries as well. Milwaukee is also known for mechanical manufacturing, water treatment, energy. We were actually in Forbes magazine this year for being ranked number 5 as one of the up and coming tech industries around the United States, which is phenomenal. So I know a lot of people go to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for, those kind of career fields. Once again, not just nationally, but internationally as well. So other key Fortune 500 companies that we have here, we have Harley Davidson, which is, corporate headquarters here. So all the Harleys that, that originated here in Milwaukee.
I thought that was cool when I came here.
Isn't that phenomenal? Mm-hmm. So we have that. We have Northwestern Mutual. which, their headquarters is, right down here as well. They have built a lot of beautiful buildings here in Milwaukee as well. We have A.O. Smith, we have Manpower, we have Fiserv. I mean, I can go on and on. These are just some of them. Rockwell Automation. Generac. One of the cool historical landmarks right here, which is where Rockwell Automation Towers is, which is formerly known as the Bradley Center. Cool family tidbit. My great-grandfather owned the Wisconsin Boat and Nuts Company. So they were a fastener distributor. So huge commercial stuff like that. They actually had the exclusive contract to do all of the gears, nuts, and bolts for which was once known as the Adam Bradley clock, which at that time was the largest four-phase clock in the world, still is. And I guess there was an agreement that they made with Big Bend not to put a bell tower in there, so Big Bend at the time could still be the largest clock in the world, four-phase with a bell tower. But it is one of the largest four-phase clocks in the world, and it is also, an iconic historical landmark here in Milwaukee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do you like my old social studies teacher's name was Don Milstead. He said, Kevin, I'm a vast reservoir of knowledge. You're a vast reservoir of knowledge.
only a vast reservoir of knowledge of what is necessary. Obviously within real estate, things like that. I think that stuff's important. So
that's good.
One thing I also wanted to talk about is, the word Milwaukee itself.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so important. So Milwaukee is actually a Native American term that derived from two specific tribes. So there's the Algonquin tribe, which is like the woodland tribe, derived of like 5 different Native American tribes from here in the Great Lakes area, along with, the Canadian area. And then also Potawatomi as well. They also, those two names together, which for the Algonquin tribe is Milwaukee, which means good land.
Okay.
Right? And then Potawatomi, they also have theirs, which is Milwaukee as well, which is like the gathering, So together, they put that together to make Milwaukee, which also means good land or beautiful land. So just the word alone, good land, why wouldn't you, in
good
real
land,
estate,
beautiful
invest
land.
in an area where you have good/beautiful land?
It is. Wisconsin's beautiful. If you ever drive through it, I mean, forget Milwaukee now. Outside of here, there's so many beautiful fields. When you go up north, gosh, Wisconsin is... I never in the world would have dreamt I would live here growing up in Baltimore, but here I am, and all my friends back home like, when you moving back home? Like, I'm not. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When I was a kid, I kind of took it for granted, but now that I'm older, my eyes are wide open. I love outdoors. Every opportunity I get a chance to go outdoors, I love it. I love the fact that, we have 10 miles of shoreland connected to Lake Michigan, which is the second largest freshwater body lake in the world.
Right
at our fingertips. We have friends that I know that literally go surfing in Lake Michigan.
You
don't need to go to like Miami or California to go surfing. You can do that right here in Milwaukee, right?
Exactly.
You don't need to go to California to be in shape, things like that. I was just down by the lakefront earlier today getting like a 4-mile walk in, and just the
you
beach
got a 4-mile walk in?
4-mile walk in. So if you go from the downtown where the Calatrava Art Museum is, all the way down to the very end, which leads right before Shorewood. It's 4 miles.
Gosh.
So you got that right there as well, which is beautiful. I mean, Lake Michigan as a whole has so much history. You can take a ferry from Milwaukee to Michigan. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's good.
You take your car, take your bike, boom, and go back all on the same day. It's only a 4-hour trip.
Right. Yeah, I went out with some guys on bikes, and I was amazed at where those trails took you, because then I was recognizing like landmarks. I was like, oh, I know where I am. You don't know where you are, and then you go over a bridge, like, oh, I know where I am.
Absolutely.
And I was like, how do we get this far?
Yep. I mean, you got Oak Leaf Trail is another famous trail here. You have the Hank Aaron Trail. There's actually 150 parks in just Milwaukee alone. A lot of people don't realize that.
Right.
So, I mean, whether it's public golfing or whether you just want to go to hang out and, play baseball with the kids, or whether you just want to have a barbecue, there's so many opportunities just in the parks alone.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Perry, it was awesome having you here.
Thanks, KG. It's always a pleasure.
Till next time, guys, if you want to connect with us, check the link below, and then we'll see you next time.